The players were under pressure since Caitlin Clark was unable to play in the WNBA All-Star Game. They had the opportunity to demonstrate that they were worthy of the attention and the large sum of money they are requesting. On the court, they made their remark, but the supporters also made a significant statement. Additionally, ESPN does not want you to be aware of it. ESPN is once again providing coverage for the league and its players after the viewership figures were released.
It's fine to just say, just post the ratings. But, it is another situation than pretending like Caitlin Clark doesn't exist.
Since this isn't the first time they've attempted to downplay her influence, Caitlin Clark supporters instantly called them out. However, in light of what transpired on the court, this time it's really backfiring. Let's dissect everything. But first, if you're sick of ESPN's ploys, watch this video. For additional Caitlin Clark and WNBA news, subscribe. Regarding Caitlin Clark's effect on viewing, ESPN has a pattern. They don't tell lies, but they certainly don't give the whole truth. They cherry-pick instead. They only utilize numbers that support the story they wish to sell, even though they are technically correct. Furthermore, the figures they omit about Caitlin are arguably more striking. Consider this as an example. The 2025 WNBA draft had a record 119% increase in viewership, according to ESPN. That appears to be a huge victory for the league at first view. However, if you look a little closer, you'll see something strange. They are contrasting that with 2023. So, why not go ahead and do 2024? Anyone working in media or marketing will tell you. You make comparisons between years, not between this year and 2 years ago, but between this year and last year. Why, then, would ESPN forgo the 2024 draft? Because Caitlin Clark's draft, which attracted 2.45 million viewers, was the one. The actual headline would have been this if they had made a comparison with that. Draft viewing has decreased by 49%. However, they did not want that tale to be publicized. Furthermore, this isn't an isolated incident. They performed the same maneuver in the second round, Sweet 16, and Elite 8 of March Madness in 2025. ESPN contrasted viewership figures with 2023. At first look, it appears reasonable because Caitlin participated in the event that year. However, the comparison abruptly ended when they reached the National Title Game's Final Four. No more 2023. Rather, they simply stated that it was the third highest ever, which seems remarkable until you consider that the 2 years prior were 23 and 24. Caitlin advanced to the last four both years. What would happen then if they did display all of the numbers? They would have to acknowledge a decline in viewership of more than 10 million. So, yes, if they outperform Caitlin Clark in terms of statistics, they will compare. But be quiet if they don't. That's not a mistake. That's intentional. The funniest aspect is that they don't believe fans will get it. They believe that if they present enough impressive statistics, people would conclude that, in the absence of Caitlin Clark, women's basketball simply keeps breaking records. In actuality, however, they are making it much more apparent. The Strian effect is the cause. It's the result of trying to conceal something. Additionally, you raise far more awareness of it by doing this. ESPN is currently doing just that. Because every turn, every selective stat, and every dodge only serves to highlight one point, Caitlin supporters are able to spot it right away and call it out every time. Evidently, they don't want us to know that Caitlin Clark is spearheading the expansion. It's not just ESPN, though. The entire W ecosystem is affected because each time, despite efforts by the league, the players, or the media to minimize Caitlin's influence, they do not minimize her. They simply reveal who they are. To be honest, it has now turned into a comedy. The criticism of Caitlin Clark for winning Time Athlete of the Year was swift. It seems like everyone in the league deserved it, not because she didn't deserve it. As though the honor were for participation, there were real requests to have every WNBA player on the cover. It's funny how that standard only applies to Caitlin because no one requests a group shot when Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, or Nafa Collier are highlighted by Time or Sports Illustrated. It didn't end there either. Her own coach was unable to congratulate Caitlin on winning an ESPN in public without giving away all of the league's players credit right away.
noticed or heard about it, but during the game, Caitlin got honored as the WNBA Player of the Year in the ESPYs. Just what does it mean to have her impact so far? I mean, there are a lot of really good players in this league, and she got honored as the best player in the league by the ESPYs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she continues to get new awards. She continues to break barriers. She continues to do things that we haven't seen before. I mean, you know, obviously you think about the Stewie's MVPs of the league, and you know, championship winners, and Asia's MVPs of the league and championship winners, and of course Sue Bird, who was sitting, you know, in the building today. And you know, Caitlin is so fortunate, as well as all these guys, really. I mean, that they don't know anything any different than the WNBA.
The biosphere surrounding her is so delicate. It is necessary to negotiate praise politically as well. Furthermore, Caitlin's popularity is seldom recognized by the media on her own merits.
I just said we would not be talking about Caitlin Clark the way that we do if it wasn't for that moment with Angel Reese. And I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill.
I was with you until that.
I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill.
They claim that someone else is to blame. A contest, a scene, a story. Anything other than the player who is actually drawing the numbers. And as soon as they acknowledge that she has millions of supporters, those fans start to cause issues.
The new fans are sucking life out of the WNBA right now.
We'll start with you, Kels, because Lord Jesus, your team and their fans,
Jesus,
they be getting up in everybody's business.
I think so many fans, you know, feel they have the freedom to say whatever they want to us, and unfortunately, there's a lot of nasty things that come with it. You know, they don't have people coming to their job saying these nasty things. So, yeah, we definitely have to protect the players better.
And it gets worse after that. In addition to being noisy, Caitlin's admirers have turned into toxic, bigoted, and racist individuals. It seems like they don't support Paige Becker's since she supports social justice. Alternatively, Caitlin might have controlled her fan base by selecting Angel Reese in the All-Star draft. With an overt statement suggesting that Indianapolis isn't a safe place for athletes, even the Phoenix Mercury joined in. It's crazy because the league, the players, the ecosystem, and the media are all working to punish the fans who enabled the league's growth and degrade the player who is actually driving it. They are also aware of it. But they would rather keep their power by protecting their egos, which is funny because that power vanishes the moment Caitlin's admirers stop paying attention. And for the players at the moment, power is everything. A heated CBA discussion is now taking place between the players. And they want to profit from a huge media rights agreement that, let's face it, is largely being spearheaded by Caitlin Clark. Behind the scenes, however, there are genuine worries since the owners are aware of the facts, regardless of what the players or the media claim. Caitlin's popularity is crucial to this league. Ratings and ticket costs not only decline when she is not there, they plummet by at least 50%. And that isn't typical. In no other league, actually.
I can't imagine, folks, you know how many NBA players can get injured? And the prices would never drop to this low. LeBron James can be injured, Steph Curry could be injured, Kevin Durant could be in, and the prices still will not drop to be this low. $75? Folks, I'm sure there's some high school football teams down in Texas that charge you at least $75 to get to a home game.
Therefore, the players were in a terrible situation when Caitlin Clark was disqualified from the All-Star game. They were suddenly on their own when this was supposed to be the league's biggest spotlight moment. Just the players and an opportunity to demonstrate that they could handle the event without Caitlin. No ratings boost guaranteed. And things went sideways right out of the gate. When Caitlin was ruled out, ticket prices fell by 48%. And that raised a significant query. How terrible could it get? Without her, could the players perform a miracle? Or would the data ultimately reveal the true extent of this dependence? The ratings are in, then. Additionally, ESPN tried all out to control the damage.
3-point contest. ESPN, ABC, and Disney score the historic viewership for the 2025 WNBA All-Star events. Friday, July 18th, ESPN airs the most watched WNBA skills and 3-point contest ever, averaging 1.3 million viewers, which is up 89% versus last year's WNBA skills and three-point contest, up 89%.
In fact, the weekend got off to a great start. A significant increase in viewership for the three-point and skills competitions over 2024 is encouraging for the league. The players seemed capable of pulling it off. They could be able to set records without Caitlin Clark playing. However, ESPN immediately returned to their previous strategies.
All-Star Game ratings from this past weekend was the second most watched WNBA All-Star Game ever, behind 2024. No surprise there. The 2025 WNBA All-Star Game was the most watched program of the night across all of TV. The night, not the day. With 2.2 million average viewers, up 158% from the 2023 WNBA All-Star Game.
Have you seen it? The All-Star Game ratings were contrasted with those of 2023, the year prior to Caitlin Clark's league debut. Despite the fact that they had made a comparison between the skills competition and 2024 in the same post only a few lines earlier. What caused the abrupt change, then? I wonder, Perhaps it's because 3.4 million people watched the All-Star Game last year, which did include Caitlin Clark. There are 2.2 million this year. That is a 36% decline. 1.2 million fewer people watched. Lost. And they buried that rather than owning it. Is it possible to state that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the NBA's all-time top scorer, and then add a small asterisk that reads, with the exception of LeBron? It is what it is. A conscious decision to distort the statistics to make them seem remarkable without disclosing the truth. Due to the fact that most individuals are busy, they have 2.2 million viewers and have increased by 158%. And consider how popular the league has become. ESPN is aware that they don't have time to investigate further. So yes, the numbers are technically accurate, but the way they're framed, it is intended to deceive, to fabricate a story, and to give the impression that this year's All-Star Game was, get this, historic.
Not this is historic. Like they were like, scored historic viewership. How is it historic when it's like half of last year? Last year was nearly 4 million. How is it historic when it's like half of last year?
And this is where ESPN made a huge mistake because, rather than making things easier, their spin made the issue worse. The Strine effect was triggered. The 2023 comparison trick caught everyone's attention.
Well, Uncle KC, ESPN was comparing this year's All-Star Game to 2023. Why? Why in the hell would they do that? I'll tell you why ESPN did this. This is another example of the mainstream media protecting the WNBA. This is another example of ESPN polishing the turd with this dump of a league.
The thing is this. In fact, by WNBA All-Star Game standards, 2.2 million viewers is fantastic. However, the decline, which is 36% lower than the record set with Caitlin Clark last year, makes her influence unavoidable. Additionally, the players' actions during All-Star kind of humiliating for the weekend. They exaggerated their chests. The protest shirts were worn by them. Give us the money you owe us. They spread the word about what they deserved at a fan event. And this is the reality. In the court of public opinion, it was a risk. And that didn't work out.
The WNBA players in their pregame warm-up came out in these t-shirts, pay us what you owe us. And then immediately pivoted to playing the worst All-Star game in the history of professional All-Star games. They took the court in t-shirts. Pay us what you owe us. We're underpaid. This league has lost millions of dollars, but we're underpaid. Pay us what you owe us. And then they served up a doo-doo sandwich to sports fans.
And then Kelsey Plum, the icing on the cake, arrived. She criticized Caitlin Clark and her crew during the post-game news conference, suggesting that they weren't interested enough to meet to discuss the protest t-shirts.
The t-shirt, just United Front was determined this morning. that we had a meeting for, and you know, not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that. But no, we were just we had a very that really needed to be mentioned.
Instead of applauding Indiana for hosting a record-breaking weekend and enjoying the sold-out crowd, she claimed that the event that was meant to bring the league together in Indy Caitlin's home market was an insane mistake either the fans or the city. She targeted the one player who is actually providing the league with the means to make demands. Kelsey and others attempted to dismiss it as a joke, but Caitlin's supporters, who will soon be contributing significantly more to the player's income, did not share that opinion. Stacey King, an NBA champion and broadcaster, said just what had to be said. The WNBA players couldn't afford another blow after Kelsey's awful on-court performance and her off-court remarks. The dagger would have been a 36% drop in ratings. What they needed was ESPN's announcement of a historic occurrence. However, I'm only referring to the court of public opinion at this time. The proprietors, they are able to see through it. And if you look a little closer, they would most likely be the first to point out that it's worse behind closed doors. It probably wouldn't have simply matched last year's $3.4 million if Caitlin had participated in the game rather than just sitting on the sideline. It would have easily defeated it. Take a peek at this season's numbers. The ratings skyrocket when Caitlin performs. With audiences of over 2.7 million, 2.2 million, and 2.2 million, respectively, her games against the Sky, the Liberty, and the Sun have all been among the most watched WNBA broadcasts in decades. 1.7 million in turn. In all likelihood, then, 3.4 million people would not have watched the All-Star game if Caitlin had played. We're most likely talking about 4 million, so this wasn't a mere 36% decline. There was a 50% drop in prospective viewers. But here's what's so astounding about it all.
You're fighting for better salaries, you're portraying a united front at your biggest event, you still find a way to throw shade at Caitlin Clark. Why? Stacey King posted. Quote, look at Sabrina's reaction to Plum's comment. It says a lot. Some of these girls are really petty, and someone needs to explain to them it's hurting their league and it's sad to see. He's not wrong.
Why not simply state the silent part aloud rather than drawing comparisons to 2023 to make it seem like a historic night? You just had the second most watched All-Star game ever, thanks to the Caitlin Clark effect and all the new fans. She wasn't even playing either. Admit that the Caitlin Clark effect exists. It's fostering the league's expansion. Thank you, and welcome to your new fans in the same sentence. That's all. Fans only want to hear that. After the game, Caitlin was the literal cornerstone of everything you're fighting for, so there shouldn't have been any strange gaslighting or subliminal jabs at her that suggested she didn't initially agree with the statement. In actuality, the players will receive higher compensation. Without a doubt. Since Caitlin's arrival, franchise values have doubled despite the league losing money each year. The owners are well positioned to make an investment. Both they and the players should avoid a lockout. Here's the reality, though. If they will simply welcome those who are enabling this growth, they may receive much more. If they cease disparaging the supporters and acting as though Caitlin isn't the cause of the numbers moving, as it becomes increasingly clear that the Caitlin Clark effect exists the more they fight it, and the longer Caitlin is the only player their fans are interested in. Since you are a GOAT, please leave a comment if you are still here. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you later.
Without Caitlin Clark, it was the second highest rated WNBA All-Star game ever, and that is a huge point of distinction. Two things are clear. If Caitlin Clark plays in the All-Star game, it will set records. But now, because of her popularity, even if she doesn't, it will break records and be the second highest ever, only beaten by the time she played in it. And that matters.